I explored the Olmec mystery in considerable depth. Before the Aztecs and before the Maya, there were a culture who are referred to as the Olmecs.
In a shocking discovery, scientists have found evidence of an ancient civilization in the Amazon rainforest. Unlike anything ever seen before, the city is believed to have been hidden for thousands of years, while preserved in dense jungle vegetation. This discovery, however, has left archaeologists working overtime as it challenges everything that we thought we knew about the history of the Amazon forest. Join us as we delve into the mind-blowing discovery of this ancient civilization in the Amazon jungle. The mysterious find of the colossal heads. Archaeologists just found some interesting things in the Amazon jungle in San Lorenzo. They discovered what looked like an ancient city in the middle of the jungle. The way the city was arranged showed that there was careful planning, as it had special places for ceremonies and places where people lived, showing that society had a fancy way of living. All indications point out that this belonged to the Olmec civilization. Huge stone sculptures, some of which weigh more than 40 tons, were unearthed on the Olmec ancestral land. With their exact purpose still unknown, they are believed to symbolize some of the important and revered Olmec rulers and deities. The gigantic size and weight of these colossal heads have sparked many theories about their true origin, purpose, and meaning, but these theories remain unproven. However, despite extensive research, the mysterious origins of these ancient artifacts remain unsolved, and their true significance is still unclear. Many of the colossal heads were found by the local people, who discovered them while farming in the area. Upon discovery, the heads were often buried underground or covered by vegetation. But in 1862, José Melgari Serrano made the first significant acknowledgement of these heads when he dug out one at Tres Zapotes in Veracruz, revealing their existence to the world. In his description, Melgari reported that the sculpture has Ethiopian features, a reflection of the era's interpretations and biases, underscoring how little was known about the Olmecs then. Melgari's find was indeed a groundbreaking one, but it was initially seen as an isolated one, rather than evidence of a broader, unknown civilization. Therefore, for decades, these colossal heads were viewed more as curious anomalies than vital cultural artifacts. Because the colossal heads were not understood within the context of a wider archaeological site, their true significance was overlooked, and they were sometimes wrongly attributed to other known civilizations like the Maya or Aztec. For many years, the mysterious nature of these artifacts remained a puzzle until recently, when archaeologists like Matthew Strings launched new archaeological excavations, which now began to piece together the broader picture, revealing the significance of the artifacts. With the efforts of these archaeologists, more colossal heads were uncovered alongside other artifacts on the land. This helps to piece together the puzzle of the Olmec civilization. On this note, the dedicated work of the scientists finally makes the Olmecs recognizable as an exceptional and influential culture in Mesoamerica, predating and potentially influencing subsequent civilizations like the Maya and Aztecs. The groundbreaking expedition, led by Matthew Stirling to San Lorenzo Tenochtitlan in 1938, dramatically advanced our understanding of the Olmec civilization. This is a mysterious culture that laid the foundational stones of Mesoamerican history. In recognition of the potential significance of these sites, the Smithsonian Institution decided to provide the necessary support and funding for a more thorough and deeper exploration. However, the broadness of San Lorenzo, spreading across several kilometers, added another problem, as it was impossible to excavate the entire site at once. In order to excavate the Olmec site, Stirling and his team had to make strategic decisions about where to dig. They relied on surface clues to prioritize areas where there was a high chance of finding relevant artifacts. By carefully clearing away the jungle growth and digging into the ancient soil, they uncovered clues about the people who once lived there. Hence, every discovery, from stone tools to pieces of pottery, gave insights into the Olmec way of life. More so, by carefully documenting and analyzing their findings, they were able to piece together a more complete picture of this long-lost culture. So, just how did the Olmecs create these incredible sculptures in an era with limited technology? And what does each sculpture signify? The unique features of the puzzling artifacts. One major thing that is clear about the colossal heads upon their excavation is their anomalous features, unlike anything else ever found in Mesoamerica. Their flat noses, fleshy cheeks, and distinct headgear that resembles a helmet seemed so foreign and strangely familiar. These features are what captivate those who find them, and with no physical examples of the headdresses found anywhere, many questions were left unanswered. Just like no physical example of an Egyptian pharaoh's helmet, a crown has ever been found. Were they meant to be real helmets or a stylized representation of an unknown object? Were the heads in the likeness of real people who have lived in the area, or do they represent something entirely different? Various theories have been propounded to get this fact right. Hence, the debate over the reality of the colossal heads continues today. Lack of evidence makes it difficult for the theories to reach a definite conclusion. According to David Grove's theory, the production of each colossal head must have been carefully planned, given the effort required to ensure the necessary resources were available. It seems likely that only the more powerful Olmec rulers were able to mobilize such resources. The workforce would have included sculptors, laborers, overseers, boatmen, woodworkers, and other artisans producing the tools to make and move the monument, in addition to the support needed to feed and otherwise attend to these workers. The seasonal and agricultural cycles and river levels needed to have been taken into account to plan the production of the monument, and the whole project may well have taken years from beginning to end. Based on archaeological investigation of Olmec basalt workshops, it is suggested that the colossal heads were first roughly shaped using direct percussion to chip away both large and small flakes of stone. The sculpture was then refined by retouching the surface using hammerstones, which were generally rounded cobbles that could be of the same basalt as the monument itself, although this was not always the case. Moreso abrasives were found in association with workshops at San Lorenzo, indicating their use in the finishing of fine detail. Olmec colossal heads were fashioned as in-the-round monuments with varying levels of relief on the same work. They tended to feature higher relief on the face and lower relief on the ear spools and headdresses. Monument 20 at San Lorenzo is an extensively damaged throne with a figure emerging from a niche. Its sides were broken away, and it was dragged to another location before being abandoned. It is possible that this damage was caused by the initial stages of recarving the monument into a colossal head, but that the work was never completed. On confirmation, all 17 confirmed heads in the Olmec heartland were sculpted from basalt mined in the Sierra de los Tuxtlas Mountains of Veracruz. Most were formed from coarse-grained, dark gray basalt known as Cerro Sintepec basalt, after a volcano in the range. Investigators have proposed that large Cerro Sintepec basalt boulders found on the southeastern slopes of the mountains are the source of the stone for the monuments. These boulders are found in an area affected by large lahars that carried substantial blocks of stone down the mountain slopes, which suggests that the Olmecs did not need to quarry the raw material for sculpting the heads. Roughly spherical boulders were carefully selected to mimic the shape of a human head. The stone for the San Lorenzo and La Venta heads was transported a considerable distance from the source. The La Cobata head was found on El Vigia Hill in the Sierra de los Tuxtlas, and the stones from Tres Zapotes. Colossal Head 1 and Nestepe. Colossal Head 1 came from the same hill. The flat backs of many of the colossal heads represented the flat bases of the monumental thrones from which they were reworked. Only 4 of the 17 Heartland heads do not have flattened backs, indicating the possibility that the majority were reworked monuments. Alternatively, the backs of many of these massive monuments may have been flattened to ease their transport, providing a stable form for hauling the monuments with ropes. 2 heads from San Lorenzo have traces of niches that are characteristic of monumental Olmec thrones, and so they were definitely reworked from earlier monuments. Olmec colossal heads differ in height from 1.47 to 3.4 meters and weigh between 6 and 50 tons. All of the Olmec colossal heads symbolize mature men with flat noses and fleshy cheeks, with the eyes tending to be slightly crossed. What is shocking about the general physical characteristics of the heads is that they are still common among people living in the Olmec region today. The backs of the heads are often flat, looking as if they were originally placed against a wall. All examples of these heads wear distinctive headdresses that probably represent cloth or animal skins in the original. However, some also have a tied knot at the back of the head, and some are decorated with feathers. An example of a head from Levanta is decorated with the head of a bird. Similarities between the headdresses on some of the heads have led to speculation that specific headdresses may represent different dynasties or perhaps identify specific rulers. This is justified as most of the heads wear large ear spools inserted into the earlobes. After much scientific deliberation, it is said that all the heads are realistic and have frank descriptions of the men. Well known to the sculptors, it is likely that they were portraits of living or recently deceased rulers. More so, based on the distinctiveness of these heads and their naturalistic display of individualized features, they were also once thought to represent ball players. Even though this theory is no longer widely held, it is possible, however, that they represent rulers equipped for the Mesoamerican ball game. Also, the facial expressions depicted on the heads vary from stern through placid to smiling, suggesting that the sculptures were intended to represent individualized human beings rather than generic representations of a particular type. In addition, the most naturalistic Olmec art, as the earliest artifact, appears suddenly without surviving antecedents, with the style becoming more stylized and abstracted as time goes on. Some other surviving examples of wooden sculpture recovered from El Mana demonstrate that the Olmecs are likely to have created many more perishable sculptures than works sculpted from stone. Although all the colossal heads are broadly similar, there are distinct stylistic differences in their execution. One of the heads from San Lorenzo bears traces of plaster and red paint, suggesting that the heads were originally brightly decorated. Heads did not just represent individual Olmec rulers, they also incorporated the very concept of rulership itself. Is their origin now traceable? Based on speculations, in the work of Alfonso Medellin Zinel in 1960, it is said the Olmec had African origins. Also, in the 1970s, in the writings of Ivan van Sertima. But the speculation is not taken seriously by Mesoamerican scholars such as Richard Deal and Ann Cyphers because, according to the genetic studies, it is shown that, rather than Africa, the earliest Americans had ancestry closer to ancient Paleo-Siberian. The confirmed examples of the colossal heads are 17 in total, uncovered from 4 sites within the Olmec heartland on the Gulf Coast of Mexico. Most colossal heads were also sculpted from spherical boulders, but 2 from San Lorenzo Tenochtitlan were recarved from massive stone thrones. An additional monument at Tecalic Abaj in Guatemala is a throne that may have been carved from a colossal head. This is the only known example from outside the Olmec heartland. Additionally, in dating these mysterious artifacts, the precise date of the colossal heads remains unknown. However, it was discovered that the San Lorenzo heads were buried by 900 BC, indicating that their period of manufacture and use was earlier still. The heads from Tres Zapotes had also been moved from their original context before they were investigated by archaeologists, and the heads from Levanta were found partially exposed on the modern ground surface. The period of production of the colossal heads is therefore unknown, as is whether it spanned a century or a millennium. Estimates of the time span during which colossal heads were produced vary from 50 to 200 years. The San Lorenzo heads are believed to be the oldest and are the most skillfully executed. All of the stone heads have been assigned to the pre-classic period of Mesoamerican chronology, generally to the early pre-classic 1500 to 1000 BC, although the 2 Tres Zapotes heads and the La Cobata head are attributed to the middle pre-classic 1400 BC. What more should we know about this ancient Amazon jungle, the ancestral history of the Olmec civilization? On account of the ancestral history of American settlement, which seems more complicated than ever realized, historians and archaeologists are drawn to the mysteries that have been held by the societies. They are energized by a mix of exploration, colonization, and a tendency to have in-depth knowledge of the unknown. This led to a shift in archaeology, as expeditions are no longer focused on finding artifacts, but also on gaining a deeper understanding of the history and culture of these civilizations. This new approach required careful excavation and analysis rather than simply digging for treasures. To achieve this, institutions in Europe and the United States, which include museums and universities, began to recognize the value of studying and understanding the cultures of these indigenous civilizations. Hence, they began to fund the expeditions. The Olmec civilization developed in the lowlands of southeastern Mexico between 1500 and 400 BC. The Olmec heartland lies on the Gulf Coast of Mexico within the states of Veracruz and Tabasco, an area measuring approximately 275 kilometers east to west and extending about 100 kilometers inland from the coast. The Olmecs were one of the first inhabitants of the Americas to construct monumental architecture and to settle in towns and cities, predating only by the Corral civilization. They were also the first people in the Americas to develop a sophisticated style of stone sculpture. In the first decade of the 21st century, evidence emerged of Olmec writing, with the earliest examples of Olmec hieroglyphs dating to around 650 BC. Examples of script have been found on roller stamps and stone artifacts. The texts are short and have been partially deciphered based on their similarity to other Mesoamerican scripts. The evidence of a complex society developing in the Olmec heartland has led to the Olmecs being regarded as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, although this concept remains controversial. The city of San Lorenzo was succeeded as the main center of civilization by La Venta in about 900 BC, with Tres Zapotes and Laguna de los Cheros possibly sharing the role. Other urban centers were much less significant. The nature and degree of the control exercised by the centers over a widespread rural population remain unclear. San Lorenzo is dated back to around 1200 to 900 BCE. It stands as a monumental beacon in the study of Mesoamerican history. The ancient city predates the civilizations of the Maya and Aztecs, providing a unique glimpse into the dawn of complex societies in the Americas. Through radiocarbon dating, researchers have been able to pin down the timeline of San Lorenzo,
offering a clearer view of the Olmec civilization's early days. Among the most striking discoveries at San Lorenzo, the site has yielded jade figurines and celts, indicating robust trade networks and the cultural significance of jade.
An array of pottery styles found at the site offers insights into daily life, artistic expression, and Olmec's trade relations. The discovery of large structures, including platforms and possible elite residences, points to a highly organized society capable of mobilizing significant labor resources. The urban layout of San Lorenzo is organized around a central axis, and it reflects a thoughtfully planned development. The existence of distinct ceremonial and residential areas suggests a sophisticated urban structure, possibly mirroring social hierarchies within Olmec society. In the 1950s, the archaeological spotlight turned to La Venta, an Olmec site in Tabasco, Mexico, building on the momentum of earlier discoveries at San Lorenzo. This shift marked a significant phase in unraveling the mysteries of the Olmec civilization, regarded as one of the earliest complex societies in Mesoamerica. With a renewed interest in the Olmec culture, archaeologists like Philip Drucker and Robert Heiser applied advanced methods and interdisciplinary approaches to dig deeper into the site's secrets, offering a more comprehensive understanding of this ancient civilization. La Venta thrived between approximately 900 and 400 BCE, a period that witnessed the peak of Olmec cultural and artistic development. This era underscored the Olmec's remarkable achievements in architecture, art, and urban planning, setting a precedent for subsequent Mesoamerican cultures. Among the distinct features of La Venta is the Great Pyramid, which is a monumental structure made of earth and clay, noted for its unique conical shape. Unlike the pyramidal structures that would later dominate Mesoamerican landscapes, the Great Pyramid's design and scale highlight the Olmec's advanced engineering skills. and their capacity for organizing large-scale construction projects. This pyramid, along with other structures at the site, was aligned with celestial bodies, hinting at the Olmec's sophisticated understanding of astronomy and suggesting its role as a ceremonial and cultural hub. The systematic excavation efforts at La Venta brought to light not only architectural innovations, but also a wealth of artifacts, including the iconic colossal heads carved from basalt, believed to represent rulers or significant figures within Olmec society. Similarly, altars adorned with intricate carvings provided glimpses into the civilization's mythology and rituals. La Venta also revealed complex burial sites and offerings, including serpentine mosaic pavements, which offered insights into the civilization's funerary practices and religious beliefs. These findings have been instrumental in piecing together the social structure, religious practices, and artistic achievements of the Olmec civilization, significantly influencing the study of Mesoamerican archaeology. However, the preservation of La Venta faces challenges due to the tropical climate and human factors, underscoring the importance of ongoing research and conservation efforts. The exploration of La Venta in the 1950s was a watershed moment in understanding the depth and complexity of the Olmec civilization, providing a foundation for future studies and ensuring the legacy of this pivotal culture in Mesoamerican history remains appreciated and preserved. But what's fascinating about them is that they are supposedly the first high civilization of Central America, that they create structures on a massive scale, and that you can see connections between them and the later Maya. For the Maya, the Milky Way was a particularly important feature of the heavens. They conceived of it as the road that led to their netherworld, Xibalba. In the verdant lands of Central America, the ancient Maya civilization flourished with a mysterious brilliance that continues to captivate the world. Among the many enigmas they left behind, their profound understanding of astronomy stands as a testament to their intellectual prowess. Graham Hancock, a modern explorer of ancient mysteries, delves deep into this aspect of the Maya, proposing intriguing theories that stretch the bounds of conventional history. The whole mystery of the Mayan calendar was clearly inherited from the Olmecs. It wasn't something the Maya made up. The Olmecs used that same symbolism. So the Mayan calendar is actually an Olmec calendar. What about the calendar? The Maya long count calendar becomes a marvel of ancient engineering, intricately tracking a 25-year cycle with astonishing precision. This calendar wasn't just a tool for marking time. It was a complex understanding of celestial cycles, intertwining the Maya's daily lives with the cosmos. Hancock suggests that this precision hints at a deeper, possibly inherited knowledge of astronomy. Looking at the grandeur of Maya structures, such as the pyramid at Chichen Itza, the brilliance of their astronomical alignment is striking. During the equinoxes, when the position of the sun is over the equator, the display of light and shadow on this pyramid creates the illusion of a serpent slithering down its steps. What else do we know about this ancient civilization and their way of life? Graham Hancock's terrifying insight. According to Graham Hancock, he believes that the impressive architecture of the ancient world was more than just buildings. It was a reflection of the advanced astronomical understanding of the universe. He argues Orion was involved in Mayan rebirth beliefs, which describe the constellation and specifically its three belt stars as the turtles of rebirth. Hancock theorizes that the Maya might have been part of a vast network of ancient civilizations, sharing knowledge across seas and continents. This global maritime culture, as he envisages it, could have been a conduit for transferring advanced astronomical and architectural knowledge to the Maya. The architectural designs of the Maya, seen in their pyramids, temples, and cities, reflect a level of technological and engineering skill that seems almost ahead of their time. The mathematical systems of the Maya, including their use of zero, a concept rare in the ancient world, were integral to their astronomical calculations. Hancock proposes that this mathematical sophistication, too, might be a legacy from a forgotten civilization. There may have been an earlier civilization that reached a high level of advancement, perhaps different from ours, but nevertheless an advanced civilization that was just taken out of the story completely by a global cataclysm. In a tale woven from the threads of ancient mysteries, Graham Hancock, a modern-day seeker of lost truths, presents a fascinating theory. He imagines a world where an advanced civilization, predating the ancient cultures known to history, once thrived. This civilization, possibly flourishing before the last ice age, ended around 10,000 BCE, was a beacon of knowledge in fields like astronomy, architecture, and mathematics. Hancock's story tells of a society whose influence stretched far beyond its own time and space, touching various corners of the ancient world, including the enigmatic Maya civilization. However, this ancient global society, in Hancock's story, faced a dramatic and catastrophic end. He hypothesizes that a cataclysmic event, such as a comet impact or a massive flood, nearly obliterated this civilization. But not all was lost. It was then the survivors who carried the torch of their advanced knowledge and ventured out into the world. These bearers of ancient wisdom found their way to other less advanced societies and shared their knowledge, planting the seeds for new civilizations to grow. Among these were the Maya, who, in Hancock's view, may have been one of the many inheritors of this ancient legacy. Hancock points to the Mayans' remarkable architectural and astronomical achievements as evidence of this influence. The precision of their calendar systems, their understanding of celestial cycles, and the alignment of their buildings with astronomical events are, in his narrative, not just the fruits of their own ingenuity, but possibly a heritage from a civilization lost in the mists of time. Interestingly, he also draws parallels between the architectural styles, religious beliefs, and astronomical knowledge found across various ancient cultures, suggesting these similarities might be remnants of a shared source of ancient wisdom, because we now know that. In a narrative that intertwines the mysteries of ancient seas with the Maya calendar, Graham Hancock brings to life his theories of a bygone era. He paints a picture of an ancient world not fragmented by vast oceans, but connected through them. This world, according to Hancock, was home to a sophisticated global maritime culture. This culture, adept in the art of navigation and shipbuilding, embarked on extensive sea voyages, knitting together the far-flung civilizations of the ancient world. Hancock believes that it is not just about the movement of ships, but also about the flow of ideas, technologies, and beliefs. He sees the similarities in architectural styles and construction techniques across different ancient cultures as whispers of shared knowledge possibly disseminated through this maritime network. Thank you for watching. Comment to share what you think in the comment section below. Remember to like and subscribe to see more videos.